Hi, Spirit family. I'm happy to be back from my Solo Spiritual Sabbatical, and I shared with you along the way of my trip many places that I visited, things that I experienced, but I didn't share with you what I actually learned from the process, the things that Spirit taught me along the way, the messages that they gave me for me to spiritually learn and grow, but also messages they gave me for you to share with you and the collective to help everyone else spiritually learn and grow. And so that's what this video is now, a accumulation of all the things that I learned along one little weekend, a Friday evening till a Sunday evening trip that I took on my own. And this has been on my mind for a while now. Spirit has been teaching or talking to me about reaching out and taking a trip on my own. And that's something I've never done before. I have, by nature, I tend, at least the old me, used to be very insecure, very self-conscious. I didn't like to be alone. I also have always been a worrywart, as my family calls it. My family I grew up in a family that always worried about things, was very protective, overly protective, almost smothering me as a child. It was always coming from a place of love. The actual intent was of love, but they didn't understand the fear and the worry behind it and how it lowered the vibration, how it undermined my ability to have faith and trust and to stay positive. And because of this, something along these lines of just getting in the car and driving someplace completely on my own was a very scary perspective for me. On one hand, I am very adventurous just by nature. My soul knows that I need to be spontaneous, I need to be adventurous, I need to get out and live and enjoy life. But there's always this part of me that wants to hold me back and protect me from who knows what all it's trying to protect me from. The what ifs, the big what ifs of the world. I grew up, my grandfather was a police officer, an EMT. At one point he was a fireman, but the majority of his career he was a police officer. He saw all the worst of the worst things that could happen to people. And because of that, he wanted to protect his family from that. And he wound up smothering my father, who in then turn smothered me. I'm an only child, a daughter at that, so it even created this bigger sense of concern and worry to protect me and keep me safe. I was the only grandchild as well. My dad was an only child. Now my mother, on the other hand, didn't come from that same background, but she was just anxious and worried by nature. Her personality and her upbringing caused that as well. So this was a huge step for me, and I knew it was going to be a huge step, but I wanted to do it and I was excited. And Spirit put it on my heart for a while and told me that I was going to have to face some of those things. It wasn't going to be easy, but I would learn and grow and I'd be happier for it. But even more importantly, that I'd be able to share this journey with others and help them overcome some of their concerns about taking leaps of faith and doing things that are outside of their comfort zone. So what's really cool though is, even though I knew I wanted to do this, fear, worry, all of my flaws kept trying to creep into the process of planning this trip. And even money worries, concerns with money and finances that I've struggled with for so many years. And so as my family, and it's an ongoing family bred issue, that these energies, negative energies, non-beneficial energies around money and what it is and thought and believed to be, has crippled my family for generations. And I've been fighting hard to break that, but when faced with the big thing like this, trying something new, those insecurities creep back in. So I had to find a way to overcome those insecurities and make this happen on a very small budget, something that I could actually afford. So I had to find places that I could go that were nearby. I worried about my health problems creeping in. I worried about my children's health issues. My son has special needs. My daughter has special needs. She's pregnant and in her last trimester of pregnancy. My husband has his own issues he's dealing with. He's a wonderful father and caregiver, but I'm the manager of the family. I run the family in many ways. He provides for the family. I run the family in some ways. Together, we're a great combo. Are we apart, able to still hold those same responsibilities? If I'm leaving a lot of my responsibilities at home, can it all be held together without me? Which is really ego stepping in a big way. But a lot of that is just fear-based, limited beliefs. And some of it's created throughout our lifetime together, are issues that we've gone through and overcome, but it still creeps back in no matter how much work I've done on it. But anyway, so all these things keep creeping into the process of the planning, and yet I would just ask Spirit. I'd tell him, I trust you. I'm going to have faith. I'm going to step out on faith, and I'm going to do this. Now, this may not seem like a big deal to some of you. Some of you may think, I've done this a million times. I've driven across country before. I've, traveled outside of the country by myself before, and this may not be anything for you. But while traveling alone might not be a big deal for you, there is something that is a big deal for you, that is difficult for you to either do alone or to do without fear and worry creeping in. So whatever it is that it's your vice, your obstacle, your weakness, your flaw, your imperfection, whatever it is, try and think of that and place it in the place of my traveling on my own to get the same messages out of this, because the message is still the same for each of us that I'm going to reveal a lot of this. It's just putting it in context of what it is that you struggle with, what it is you're not or never have been capable of doing on your own or for yourself before, but needing to see that you really are capable of it and you can do it if you set your mind to it and change your perspective around it. So right from the get-go, I started to have doubts and concerns, but Spirit was always right there to encourage me and say, no, you can do this. So in the very first video that I shared about this experience, about before I even left, I shared how Spirit used a TV show to encourage me. And that was really exciting, and some of you may not have seen it, so I'm going to share it again very quickly. There's an old, I think it was in the 50s or early 60s television show called Make Room for Daddy. Excuse me, no, I'm sorry, I mixed those two up. It's called Father Knows Best. Father Knows Best. There's two of them that come on channels early in the morning and late at night here, around here, and this particular show just happened to come on TV while I was busy doing something, and I really wasn't watching it, but it caught my attention, and now in hindsight I know it was Spirit showing it to me. But this particular show they have several kids in the family. This teenage son that they have, he has a friend that's a little bit of a troublemaker. He's a good kid, but he tends to get the teenage son into trouble sometimes. And he comes up with this idea that they want to go out of town on a trip by themselves for the first time. And they're barely like 15 or 16 years old, but they're men now. They want to be writers when they get older, and that they need a worldly experience. So they need to go to a nearby town, not too far away, but nearby town without parent supervision. And he already has a plan as to how to do this, and he's trying to convince the family's son to do and go along with him. So they have this idea that the kid's father owns a trucking company, and that one of the drivers has a route near to this nearby town, and that they can hitch a ride, the boys, with this truck driver, and once they get there, find a place to stay and stay for the weekend. Now they want to be authors. So while they're planning this, they have a journal that they take out, a notebook, and they start going over what they're going to write as they experience things. So one of the things is interesting people that they encounter, interesting adventures that they have, events that happen. And they're going to write these things down to later write about them, to share with their writers, or to use as characters in a plot in their writing. And as I'm listening to this, it sounds like what I was planning on doing. I am an author. I'm also a teacher, and I know that I'm going to share parts of my journey of this upcoming trip with you guys. And so I have a list that I was writing in my mind of the things that I'm going to write down as I encounter them. So there was a synchronicity there that I thought was interesting, but didn't think too much about it. Well, the young son is a good boy, so he runs this whole idea past his father to get permission to go, instead of making up a lie of some sort. And the father misunderstands and thinks he wants him to go with them, to chaperone. And the boy has the difficult thing of having to explain, or trying to explain, no, Dad, we want to do this alone. So even though it's two boys, the whole premise is they want to go to a nearby town alone to experience what it's like to live life and to be an adult, and alone together, but alone without chaperones or family, and to experience what they need to experience. And it started to kind of sound very similar to my trip. Well, they plan it, and as they're going to act it out, something comes up. This boy goes and gets with the truck driver and gets in the truck, and right as they're getting ready to leave, they're on a very timed schedule that has to be kept to. They get a message that the boy's friend can't come along. The friend of this main character cannot come along now, and he has to decide in a hurry, which he really is. The decision's taken away from him. The truck driver just pulls away and takes off with him in the truck. Well, now suddenly this becomes a solo trip. Young, vulnerable kid alone in the world, traveling on his own now, about to be completely alone in a nearby town for the first time ever. And now it's sounding even more like my trip, and it starts to dawn on me. I'm like, wait a minute, are you guys trying to tell me something here? Are you trying to encourage me that I needed to go ahead and do this trip? And I just decided to read the description of the show, and I click on it, and it says that they're going to Hillsboro. The boys plan a trip to Hillsboro, which immediately strikes a chord with me, because Hillsboro is the next biggest town over from the actual place I was heading, to Serpent Mound Park. Hillsboro is the last town I know of that I've been in before I cross out into complete country and am in no place I'm familiar with anymore. So of all the towns in the world, in all of the names they could have possibly come up with, I had actually just noted and told my husband the night before that where I was going was just a little bit north of Hillsboro. That's the actual place I used to pinpoint where we were going, where I was going. And then it all just made sense to me that Spirit found, out of the crazy, crazy, vast what would you call it, library of knowledge in humanity. They found a television show from before I was even born, about 70 years ago. And what are the chances of me even seeing this show? Because I don't watch it. It's not like some, a news show that would tend to catch my attention and get me to watch it. But they found a show out of the vast library of Hollywood television shows and just things in general that I could see that had multiple synchronicities to my story and what I was dealing with at the time, including the name of the town that I was going to be driving through to get to my destination. And it was just way too much synchronicities to be a coincidence, and no doubt in my mind at that point that Spirit was encouraging me that I needed to take this leap of faith and I needed to take this trip, because of course the boy starts to get scared, his imagination runs away with him, and some crazy things happen, but of course he turns out perfectly fine, unscathed. He learns a great lesson, he gets to experience life, and it's a happy ending. Well, of course, the same thing happened for me, and Spirit knew it all along. But what are the chances of them using a 1950s black and white TV show that I don't watch? Which just goes to show that Spirit knows everything. God, Creator, Source, they know everything. They have the ability to plan things out and use things from hundreds of years before you were ever born to 70 years before you were ever born, times in your lifetime. They have all access to everything that they can pull together to use to make perfect sense to what is going on in your life, which makes sense that they'd be able to find a card in a deck of tarot cards or oracle cards that would make sense and apply to your answer of the question you're asking, and they'd be able to get you to pull that card for that message. So I just love that story. It means the world to me that my guides would go to such creative lengths to encourage me and inspire me. But then, as I was getting ready to leave, as I was packing up and ready to go, I had just told my daughter, who is very anxious by nature. Part of that's because she's so empathic, but I was encouraging her and letting her know everything was going to be okay. I was going to be fine, not to worry. She always worries about me when I leave. And I go to walk out to the van for the last time before I'm going to go get in it, and right next to it is a beautiful feather. Beautiful feather. Lately, I go through spells where I find so many feathers I don't know what to do with them. And then I go through dry spells where I don't find any, even when looking for them or asking for them at times. This is one of those spells where I haven't found a feather in a while. I've gone out, every time I go out to look for the mail or go out to take the dogs out, I always look for them. Haven't seen one. But I was just explaining to my daughter, Spirit knew I needed a little encouraging, that my daughter needed a little encouraging, and as I'm getting the van, there's a feather laying right there that I was able to take to her and show her I'm in good hands. I don't have to worry. So just before I even got on the road, I had Spirit encouraging me, making sure that I had the info that I needed to feel confident about going on this trip. But then when I get on the road, they didn't let me down then either. I have a lot of notes here, so bear with me as I read them for you. But the first night, as I'm driving, I continue to get messages from Spirit. On the radio dial, on the messages on the radio, came up 444, 111. I saw them on license plates. I saw them on street signs, 444, 111, which basically means we're with you, Spirit's with you, you're being guided, you're on the right path. That's a very common one for those numbers. You're on the right path, so you can trust that you're on the right path. So I get to the hotel of where I'm going, and I get checked in, and I decide to check out. It's around dinner time. I'm going to go get some dinner, and I decide to stop by the local dollar store that's right by the hotel. I actually was going there to look for a lawn chair in case I needed it for the weekend. And while I was there, I lucked out. Now, I'm obsessed with unicorns. And while I was there, I found some really cute journals, soft as well as hardcover, like this particular one, where it folds out and is hard. I had both images on hard ones, both images on soft ones, and these were only $1. And I am always needing good journals because I need them for writing down my readings, need them for just journaling my dreams, my experiences. My children go through a lot of journals, and both of my kids love unicorns, so I stocked up on them for $1. But if you notice, what does it say on here? Can you read that? It's upside down. Believe in miracles. So here I am on a trip, trusting in spirit, ready and eager to learn whatever they have to share with me. I spoke to them all the way while driving. I talked to them and said, well, it's just you and me. What do you want me to know? I'm open. I'm listening. Part of the time I had the radio on. Other times I turned it off just so I could listen for anything that came through in my thoughts or from messages from them. And the first place I get to, once I check in, I get a message. Believe in miracles. With, of course, something that would catch my attention, beautiful unicorns. And they knew that, and they knew I needed journals. So for $1, I got a great journal with a spirit message. These are things that you might normally just overlook and not even think about if you're not tuned in and listening for the messages from spirit. But if you ask for help and guidance, you ask for messages, and then you get distracted and don't pay attention, you're going to miss these kind of things. But here I am now on my own, on a trip, purposely looking for these things, right? So, got another message as soon as I get there. So then I decided to go to the local chili parlor right nearby. It's called Gold Star. If you've ever been to Cincinnati in Ohio, we have a certain kind of chili that we make here that's kind of spicy called Cincinnati chili. Some people call it chili con carne. Like, it's similar to some of the chilies that have, like at Coney Island and different places up north, but has its own certain kind of spice to it. But anyway, I decided to eat at this place. And now I'm not used to eating alone at a restaurant. I've never been one that's felt comfortable sitting at a restaurant and eating by myself. I don't know why. I think it's silly. I know it's silly, but I just get self-conscious and I feel like kind of like a loser sitting there eating by myself. But I know none of that's true now. I know better, but it still creeps in from my old insecurities, right? So I'm sitting there alone, and I brought some of the pamphlets that I picked up from the hotel on activities and events in the area, and I'm reading them, but I'm also kind of just paying attention to the ambiance and the people around me. And the owner of the place comes out and starts talking to me and the various customers. Very sweet, friendly lady. I mean, very nice, just taking her time to come out and talk to her customers. And I didn't eavesdrop, but I kind of listened in on some of the conversations that were being loud enough and knowing that people were hearing them. And it was just really nice to kind of experience people and tune into that, when otherwise, if I had somebody with me, I'd be consumed with that person and listening to them and would be distracted. I wouldn't really be listening to the things that were going on around me. And I got a sense of the kind of people that were in the area that I was visiting, and everybody seemed really friendly and out to get to know one another, which is nice, because if you travel much, you know that's not the case everywhere, for sure. So I finished up my dinner, and I go back to the hotel, and I thought about meditating, I thought about doing something spiritual, but I was tired. I wanted to kind of turn in early for the night to prepare for the next morning. So I did. I go back to the hotel, I go to bed. When I wake up in the morning, though, it was weird. I woke up and I thought I heard my dog whining. My dog's kind of old. In the morning, she wakes me up in the morning crying that she's ready to go out. She also whines quite a bit. I don't know why. I know she has arthritis. I give her things for that, but sometimes it's just for attention. I hate to say it, she's a dramatic doggy, and she always has been. She's not one that keeps to herself. But anyway, I woke to this crying that sounded just like her. So much so that I thought I was dreaming. So I look around and actually sit up, and I still hear her, like as if she's right there with me. Now, this actually scared me because I thought, oh my gosh, she's really, really old and she could pass at any time. I think, oh my God, I'm a medium. What if she's here? She's supposed to be home with my family, but what if something happened and she passed and her spirit's here reaching out to me? Like, I know a lot of people that have had their loved ones appear to them as they're passing, or right before or right after they pass. Their souls will appear to them to say goodbye. So I kind of panicked, and I called my daughter to see if Reese was okay. And thank heavens she was. She was okay. But it's just kind of funny, and I thought I'd share this with you because this is actually quite common. Spirit will use the voice of a loved one to awake you when they want you to wake up for whatever reason. Sometimes it'll be the voices of your kids. Sometimes it'll be your family, your parents, your dog, whoever, because they try to wake you gently. They don't want to startle you awake by a loud noise, but they need to wake you somehow, and if they touch you, it might scare you, so they will often use voices of loved ones. And in this case, unfortunately, they didn't anticipate that it might frighten me into thinking that she had died. They were well intended, trying to be sweet in the way they awakened me, because they know I love Reese and I love her no matter how her whining annoys me at times. But I just thought I'd share that because this is not uncommon. I know I sometimes wake to my child's voice and it scares me, thinking he's awake, and I'll jump up and go look and he's still sound asleep in bed. And I don't want you to be scared of these things when it happens, wondering why you're experiencing this. It's just spirit gently awakening you, with a familiar voice that won't startle you. But unfortunately, sometimes it still does. So that started my day. But what was funny is I had fallen asleep that night with the TV on. I'd forgotten to turn it off. And that night it was on the Travel Channel about some travel show that I had been watching. But when I awoke, they had a haunting was on. So it's a television show, a documentary show that documents families, people that have experienced paranormal activity, and it tells their stories. Unfortunately, more often than not, it's told from a fear-based way of telling the story. And because Hollywood loves drama, and these people do experience the fear involved, it makes better TV for them to share how scary the experience was, rather than sharing it from a standpoint of spirituality, and that is that these people have abilities to see spirit, hear them, or feel them, and they're terrified because they don't understand it. So instead of understanding it and being calm, they are literally scared for their lives. They think that the spirit's going to hurt them, and more often than not, their minds go to a negative place. Now, don't get me wrong. There can be negative spirit, negative entities, negative energies that can harm you. But this is why spirit had me wake to this show. Because as I'm watching it, there went on to be multiple episodes back to back as I was doing things. And each time I'd look up and see a piece of it, they would give me a message. And the message was to share with everybody not to fall into the fear basis of spirit that Hollywood portrays. Movies are horrible at making us fear spirit. More often than not, spirit is just you and me, everyday people, our neighbors, our loved ones, that were living their life here one day, and the next they passed over into another dimension where they left their physical bodies. Now they're just living their life in the spirit world, doing their own thing, and our paths just happen to cross. They may still be living in your house because that's where they lived for many years. That's where they're comfortable. They may have some unfinished business. They may not. They may just be existing on the spiritual plane. And those of us that then come along and have the ability to see them because we're clairvoyant, or hear them because we're clairaudient, or we're empathic and clairsentient and can feel them, we experience them. If we didn't have those abilities, we wouldn't experience it. We wouldn't even know they're there. We wouldn't know they existed. We wouldn't know they're in our home or our workplace or our school. And we wouldn't even think twice about it. But because we can see it or hear it, and we don't know who they are, we don't understand it, it can make us afraid. It can startle us. And Hollywood is wonderful at playing up these fears and making it seem like every ghost, every spirit is out to harm you. Everything is demonic. And that's not the case. I don't know the exact percentage, but I'd say 99%, 97%, high 90 percentile. These are innocent, everyday spirits, just like you and me, that are just souls that are now not living in a physical body, and they're showing themselves in an energy body. And because it doesn't look like a normal person as we know it, it's scary. And especially if it's the first time you've ever experienced it. They may be trying to reach out to you to say, hey, I'm here, or I have a message, can you pass it to my loved one? So they may try and touch you. They may drop a cup if they get enough energy to knock it off. You may flicker the lights, or whatever it is they can do to get your attention. And to them, it's completely innocent, but to you, it's terrifying because you don't understand why. Ignorance leads to fear if we allow it. And Spirit really just wanted me to share with you that the majority of the time, these are just innocent people, mostly good people, but there's always a negative side, duality to everything. So just like if somebody was grumpy and mean here in this lifetime, they still may be grumpy and mean on the other side once they pass over. Most of the time they're not. Most of the time they learn better lessons once they cross over. They evaluate their life with their guides, with Creator, and they learn and they become better people. But if they were lower vibrational negative on this side, they may still be negative on that side and choose not to learn. They don't want to ascend. They don't want to get better. In which case, they may think it's kind of funny to make you jump every time they knock something off the counter. They may think it's funny if they poke you in the side and it freaks you out. And unfortunately, they may decide to mess with you. But here's the thing. And are there demons and things of that nature? Yes, but that's just all still energy. And it can turn supernatural. But here's the thing. Any form of energy in the form of another being that's crossed over, in the form of a negative supernatural entity such as what we call demons, it's all just energy, and it's either positive or negative depending on what we give it. If we allow fear to take over and we just become overtaken by fear and worry and concern, and we choose to go to a negative place of thought and assume that this is negative and it's going to hurt us, we open up, we bring the energy around us that allows that to happen. We actually open ourselves up and allow ourselves to be vulnerable to allow negative things to happen to us. When we encounter anything in life, whether it be another car in an intersection, or whether it comes a spirit from another dimension, We have a choice. We always have a choice in how we respond to it. Whether we allow it to trigger negativity and negative emotions, or whether we choose to allow it to have a positive response on us, or neutral, we have a choice. If we allow ourselves to go to a fear-based place and assume the worst, we create negative energy, we create and open ourselves up to vulnerability, and we are actually choosing to allow it. If we think it can harm us, it can. We actually can create that energy to give it power over us. But if we choose to say, can't hurt me, I am a being of God, I was created with full power and dominion over my power, I am a power, and if you don't believe in God, then believe of yourself of a being created in nature by the universe that has infinite amount of power over themselves and their energy and their body. And we have a choice that we can protect ourselves, and we can take our power and not give it up to anything. So if you choose to say, this thing cannot hurt me, nothing can harm me, I will not let it, I will not give my power away, then you are creating positive energy, powerful energy to protect you, around you, and you are sending that energy towards that being, the thing that could be afraid of or that could harm you, and you're sending out an energy of protection, preventing that thing from being able to harm you. I'm sorry, hold on. Shh. Salem. Shh. No. So if you create positive energy, you will and protective energy, you will protect and create the energy that's going to keep you from being vulnerable. You're going to create power. But if you create negativity, fear-based, lower vibrational emotions and energies, you will create the energy that could make you vulnerable and open you up to that being able to harm you. You are actually giving away some of your power. Shh. No. Sorry. My husband came home and my puppy hurt him. So basically what I'm saying and what Spirit wants you to know is, when you encounter a haunting, what people call a haunting, it's usually it could just be energy. It might not even be a spirit with a soul. It could just be residual energy that's playing out over and over again, that's played out for so many years that it continues. Could be energy left behind in a location because something big, powerful, meaning, or traumatic happened there. Shh. No. Either way, it's energy. And it could be a soul, a spirit. But if you encounter it, usually it's perfectly safe and not harmful and not meaning you any harm at all. If you encounter it, it means you have abilities to encounter it. You may walk in and see it and hear it. A dozen other people may walk in and not see it and hear it, even though it's standing right in front of them. We all have the ability to see and hear spirit, but we don't all have those abilities open and developed. So a lot of people are blocking it, don't believe in it, or haven't developed it. If you're able to see and hear them, in a way, that's actually a good thing. It's a blessing, as long as you understand it. So if you encounter something, don't go to an immediate place of fear. Don't go to an immediate place of negativity. Choose to take your power and say, wow, I have the ability to see this. I might not know what it is or understand it, but I believe that it can't harm me. And I believe I have power to protect myself and to not let anything harm me. And I have power to see or hear this thing when others can't. And if you actually take it and look at it from a good perspective, you will eliminate the fear and the negative based emotions, fueling more power of more protection. But if you do struggle and you recognize that you're trying to choose the positive, but you're struggling a little bit with it, call in your team and ask them to protect you and help you. Call in Archangel Michael and ask him for protection along with your team. And then you have to trust and believe. You can't ask for help and ask them to do this and then not trust and believe that it's possible. What's the point? You're wasting their time. Trust and believe that they will protect you and that this thing, whatever it is, cannot harm you. Ask them for answers. Ask them what it is. So that's what they wanted me to share with you. They basically shared with me that if you watch a lot of these stories on TV, these experiences, oftentimes it's the kids that are seeing things. Well, kids are way more open and way more often to be able to see and use their abilities to see, hear, and experience spirit. But kids also tend to get scared more easily. They also tend to have active imaginations that allow their minds to run away with them because they haven't learned how to control it, and they haven't learned how to recognize that their imagination can be used by spirit in a good way to help them. So basically, if you watch these shows, you'll see that these are kids that just have abilities, and if they had a guiding adult there to show them, hey, there's nothing to be afraid of, you have power to protect yourself, you are very protected, you can actually stand up to this being if you're afraid of it and tell it, I'm not going to let you scare me, I'm not going to let you have power over me, you must go now. Most of the time that will happen. Spirit will listen and it will go. And you can also always say, if it's something negative and low vibrational, you can actually tell it to go to God's light. If you say it 3 times, supposedly universal law is that it has to go if it's negative. But if it's not negative and it's not meaning to harm you, it's just like you not sure what to do in that situation, if you tell it nicely to please go and leave me alone, usually it will. But you have to take control of the situation. You have to take power of it. I'm sorry, hold on. No, Salem. No. Shh. No, you're not going out. He's not coming in. Quiet. Lay down. Lay down. Sorry, I have to be firm with her, even though she's cute as can be. Okay, so anyway, we need to teach our children, if they see things like this, not to freak out, not to fear. Teach them how powerful they are. Teach them, if they have powers to see and hear things like this, that they also have the power to protect themselves, the power to choose what happens in this situation. We need to teach our children and ourselves that it's all a situation of perspective. That if we look at these abilities as a good thing, hey, I can see and hear what's coming at me, instead of being blinded by it and not being able to see and hear it, not knowing where it's at. Or I have an idea of what's going on versus somebody that doesn't. Then we can look at it as a good thing. We can use the abilities for our benefit, and we can take our power and stand firm in it and protect ourselves. So they wanted me to share that we need to teach ourselves that, we need to teach our children that we need to keep every type of interaction with spirit a high vibrational interaction of positivity, because that gives us power. It gives good spirit power that we're interacting with, but it takes away any power that negative beings have. These are your abilities. This is a positive thing. This is a gift. Nothing to fear. So help them children change perspective, know that there's nothing to fear, and most importantly, know that you have a choice in how you respond to everything. Okay? You have to choose to assert your power and not give it up, and don't give it away. We need to take control of our thoughts, our energy, our perspective, because you can control the narrative of how this situation plays out usually if you see everything as a gift and a power. What happens is a decision by your own thoughts and choices. Lower energies will feel or will feed also on your lower vibrational feelings and emotions. So if you give it fear, or you're in a home where they're at and there's a lot of anger and a lot of lower vibrational activity like drugs, alcohol, you are fighting a lot, bickering a lot, crying a lot, worrying a lot. Lower vibrational entities can feed off of that and they get power from it. So if you're experiencing paranormal activity and you're not sure whether this thing has good intentions or bad, make sure you don't feed it anything negative. Just keep the positive vibrations up in the house. Cleanse the energy of the house with sage or Palo Santo, Florida water. Stay positive, act positive. Your thoughts, your actions, your emotions, all of that will take away their power, giving you more power, and then spirit cannot stand against you. So that was the very first thing that I learned waking up Saturday morning before I even got out of the hotel. Now I know this is a long video, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to break it up into several videos. I'm going to go ahead and stop now because like I said, I learned a lot this weekend and I want to share all these messages with you, and I want to make sure that anybody that wants to hear them gets it all, but I don't want you to feel overwhelmed like you have to sit and watch a 3 or 4 hour recording either. So I'm going to take a break now and I'm going to start recording the second video shortly. I'm going to go ahead and post this one now, and this way you can watch them in your own time. But I do encourage you and ask you to watch them though, because this is just the beginning of some very incredible information. So join me on the next probably 2 or 3 videos. I'm thinking I've probably got about 3 hours worth of stuff here. But I actually channeled Archangel Michael with a really important message for you and everybody, more about protection and spirit protecting you. Also more on facing your fears, facing your flaws and your imperfections when you reach out and branch out and do something new. So I'm going to let you go for now, but join me again and watch for the next video. And I will also store these and save these in, if I can figure out how to do it. It should automatically do it, but if not, then I got to do it in the video section for the group. But please, if you feel that somebody you know would like to, or needs to hear these messages, you may not be able to share them out of the group. You may, it depends on your device and the settings, but because we're a closed group, you probably won't. You can try downloading the video to your device and then sharing it, but if you need it, let me know. I can send it to you separately. Drop me a message, a direct message with your email, and I will email it to you. If you feel that somebody you know that's not in the group, needs to hear these messages, message me and I will send the video to you if you can't share it because it's of the settings of the group. Anyway, thank you for watching this long. If you've hung in here this long, thank you for going on this journey with me. I'm really excited to share this information with you, and I can't wait to share more with you. So this is just the first installment of at least 2 or maybe 3 videos, but I think that you'll find it really helpful and interesting if you keep watching. So I will be back shortly, and we'll see you real soon. Namaste.